Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Mitchell sank back into the couch, flipping through channels aimlessly. Nothing caught his interest enough to stop his incessant clicking. Hey babe, what you up to? April breezed into the living room, dropping her purse on the kitchen table with a thud.
Just trying to find something decent to watch,
Mitchell mumbled, eyes glued to the TV screen. April plopped down next to him, tucking her feet underneath her body. Oh, I love this show, she exclaimed as Mitchell flipped past a reality dating show. He flipped back with a chuckle.
All right, we can watch your trashy TV.
April playfully swatted his arm before resting her head on his shoulder. They sat in comfortable silence for a few minutes, absent-mindedly watching the drama unfold on screen. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you something, April said, sitting up to look at Mitchell. What's up? Well, she drew out the word. Remember my friend Stacy is having that big costume party next weekend?
Vaguely,
Mitchell replied. Okay, well, she said I could invite you, and I think we should go, April said enthusiastically. Mitchell raised an eyebrow. I don't know, babe. I'm not really a costume party kind of guy. April jutted out her lower lip in an exaggerated pout. Come on, it'll be fun. We can dress up together and everything. Mitchell hesitated. Maybe he could just throw together some simple costume to make her happy.
What did you have in mind for costumes?
He asked. April's eyes lit up. Well, I was thinking we could do a cute couple's costume, like Danny and Sandy from Grease or something.
Yeah, that could work.
Mitchell nodded, albeit unenthusiastically. Actually, April drew out the word again, pausing for a moment. I had another idea that could be really fun. Mitchell looked at her quizzically. Okay, what is it? What if, she placed a hand on Mitchell's knee, you dressed up as a girl and went as my date to the party? Mitchell's eyes widened in surprise. Wait, what? You want me to cross-dress? April nodded eagerly. Wouldn't it be so fun? I could help you with hair and makeup, and we could find a really pretty dress for you. Mitchell shifted uncomfortably at the thought.
I don't know, April. I've never done anything like that before.
I know, April said reassuringly. But it's a party. It's the perfect time to step outside your comfort zone, and I think you'd make such a gorgeous woman. Mitchell sighed, not fully convinced. April scooted closer, looking up at him pleadingly. Come on, do this for me. It'll be a night we'll never forget. Mitchell hesitated. He didn't want to disappoint April, but the idea of parading around in female clothes made him cringe a little inside. April seemed to sense his apprehension. She squeezed his hand gently. Hey, it's just for fun. We don't ever have to talk about it again after that night if you don't want to. But I really think we'd have a blast. Mitchell considered her words. Maybe she was right. When else could he do something so outrageous and get away with it? And April clearly had her heart set on this idea.
All right, I'll do it,
he finally conceded. April's face lit up. Yay, thank you, she exclaimed, throwing her arms around him. You're the best, babe. Mitchell chuckled and hugged her back.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting.
April stood in front of the full-length mirror and smoothed out her red cocktail dress. It hugged her athletic frame in all the right places. She turned and examined herself from different angles, adjusting the thin straps and making sure everything was sitting just right. This was the first adult costume party she had been invited to, and she wanted to make a good impression.
How's it coming along in there?
She called out to her husband Mitchell in the other room.
I look ridiculous,
he complained through the closed door.
There's no way I'm going out in public like this.
April laughed and walked over to the door. Oh, come on, let me see. I'm sure you look amazing. The door cracked open an inch, and Mitchell's eye peeked out. Promise you won't laugh.
I promise,
April said, stifling another giggle. Mitchell sighed and opened the door. April's eyes widened as she took in the full transformation. Mitchell was dressed in a short, flowy black dress paired with a long blonde wig. The makeup April had carefully applied made his angular features look soft and feminine. With his tall, slender build, he made for a surprisingly convincing woman. "Wow," April breathed. "You look incredible." Mitchell frowned, clearly unconvinced. "My legs are so hairy. Maybe I should have shaved." April waved her hand dismissively. "No one will notice with the tights. The dim lighting will help too. You just have to own it and no one will think twice."
I don't know.
Mitchell hesitated.
Do we really have to do this?
April gave him her most pleading look. "Come on, it'll be fun. When's the last time we did something crazy together?" She knew Mitchell hated to disappoint her. After a pause, he reluctantly agreed.
All right, fine. But you owe me big time for this.
April squealed and threw her arms around him. "Yay, you're the best! Now let's go before you change your mind." She grabbed his arm and quickly ushered him out the door before he could protest further. The short drive to the party was filled with April's enthusiastic chatter as she went over their cover story. They would pretend to be two girlfriends meeting up at the party, not a married couple. She had even picked out feminine names for them. April would be Anne, and Mitchell would be Michelle. "Just remember, high pitch, light voice," April instructed. "Oh, and take smaller steps when you walk." Mitchell shook his head.
This is insane. What have I gotten myself into?
They pulled up outside a large, stylish house, thrumming with music. Costumed partygoers laughed and chatted out front. Mitchell took a deep breath. "Here we go," April sang as she stepped out of the car. Mitchell followed apprehensively in his modest heels. April hooked her arm through his and guided him up the front walk. She felt him tense as they reached the crowd. "Relax," she whispered. "You make a beautiful woman. Just have fun with it." Mitchell nodded and tried to calm his nerves. They made their way inside the crowded house. The main room had been cleared as a dance floor, where costumed partiers gyrated under pulsing lights. Others mingled off to the sides, admiring costumes and chatting over the loud music. "Drinks first," April suggested, leading Mitchell towards a makeshift bar area. She could tell he needed something to loosen up. They took their cocktails and found a quiet corner to scope out the scene. April waved excitedly when she recognized some co-workers under elaborate masks. As she pointed them out, a man's voice suddenly spoke up from behind them.
Well, hello, ladies. Don't think I've seen you around before.
April turned to see a vampire hovering a bit too close to Mitchell. He was tall, with slicked-back hair and a costume that showed off his muscular physique.
I'm Damien,
he introduced himself, eyeing Mitchell up and down.
And who might you two beauties be?
April jumped in before Mitchell could respond. "I'm Anne. This is my friend Michelle," she lied smoothly, subtly moving between the two.
Pleasure,
Damien purred. "You know, Michelle, you look awfully tall for a woman. I like that in a girl." Mitchell shifted uncomfortably under his gaze.
Oh,
Thanks," he muttered, voice strained in the higher register. April steered the conversation to safer ground. "So, Damien, who do you know here?" As he turned his attention to April, Mitchell shot her a relieved look. But Damien seemed reluctant to let him slip away so quickly. "So, Michelle, I don't think I caught how you know the host," he pressed.
Oh, we just met him recently,
Mitchell faltered. "Through me," April cut in.
I know him from work.
Damien narrowed his eyes, looking between the two of them curiously. April laughed a bit too loudly. "Well, we should really go mingle. Have a good day." She pulled Mitchell away before Damien could respond. Once they were a safe distance, Mitchell leaned in close. "That guy was hitting on me hard," he whispered. April nodded. "I know, I had to rescue you, but it means your costume is working." Mitchell groaned. "This is so uncomfortable. I feel so exposed." April gave his arm a reassuring squeeze. "You're doing great. Just a few more hours and we'll be home free." They continued circulating the party, doing their best to stay in character. A few other partygoers complimented Mitchell's costume, though thankfully no one else was as forward as Damien. April was impressed by how quickly Mitchell adjusted to the act, skillfully deflecting prying personal questions. She had to remind herself sometimes that the beautiful woman at her side was actually her husband. After about an hour, Mitchell insisted they take a break outside. April could tell the constant vigilance was wearing on him. She led the way out to the quiet back patio area.
"Phew! I need a minute to breathe," Mitchell said, slipping off the heels that had been pinching his feet.
April laughed sympathetically. "You're doing so well. Here, let me fix your hair. It's getting tangled." She moved behind him and ran her fingers through the long blonde locks, smoothing out knots. As she worked, a pair of costumed partygoers wandered outside. The pirate and flapper both did double takes when they noticed Mitchell.
"Well, shiver me timbers!"
the pirate exclaimed, sauntering over.
"Now who do we have here?"
The flapper followed close behind, eyeing Mitchell greedily. "Aren't you just the cutest thing?" she cooed. Mitchell shot April a panicked look. She quickly dropped the wig and took a protective step forward. "Sorry, guys, we were just leaving," she said abruptly, linking her arm with Mitchell's. The pirate and flapper both pouted in disappointment.
"So soon? The party's just getting started?"
the pirate cajoled. April stood firm. "We really should be going, but it was nice meeting you both." She gave them a small wave, then turned and hurried Mitchell back inside. He let out a shaky breath once they were in the clear.
"I think I'm done for the night,"
he said.
"This costume is like catnip. I can't handle any more attention."
April nodded sympathetically. She had gotten the excitement she wanted out of the experience.
"All right, let's sneak out the back."
They managed to slip out a side door unseen. As soon as they were in the safety of the car, Mitchell ripped off the wig and used a wet wipe to scrub the makeup from his face. April smiled and gave his knee a supportive squeeze. "You were an amazing woman tonight. I knew you could pull it off." Mitchell just shook his head.
"The things I do for you."
But she could see him fighting a smile. Mitchell leaned back in the passenger seat, letting out a long exhale as he wiped off the last of the makeup. "So," April glanced at him as she drove, "was it as bad as you thought?" Mitchell considered the question.
"Well, it was definitely uncomfortable at times," he admitted. "Being hit on by guys as a woman was weird. I felt so exposed."
April nodded sympathetically.
"But,"
Mitchell continued slowly,
"I guess once I got more comfortable in the role, it was kind of fun."
April raised her eyebrows in surprise.
"Really?"
"Yeah." Mitchell nodded, seeming a bit surprised himself.
"I mean, it was scary at first, but then it felt kind of freeing. Like I could let loose and be someone totally different."
"I knew you'd enjoy it," April said excitedly. Mitchell gave a small chuckle.
"I wouldn't go that far. But it was an interesting experience for sure."
They drove in silence for a few minutes before Mitchell spoke again.
"You know, you did a really good job on the makeup,"
he said. "I was impressed with the transformation." April grinned. "Well, thanks. I used to practice on my sister all the time when we were teenagers." Mitchell shook his head in amusement.
"Of course you did."
"Maybe I missed my calling as a makeup artist?" April mused. Mitchell studied her profile as she concentrated on the road. Her enthusiasm was contagious. He had to admit her excitement over the costume idea was part of what convinced him to go through with it in the first place. "So," April drew out the word tentatively, "would you maybe want to do it again sometime?" Mitchell's eyes widened.
"Seriously? You want me to dress up like a woman again?"
April shrugged. "I mean, only if you want to. But you seemed to have fun with it once you got into character." "I don't know." Mitchell hesitated. Now that they were out of the party environment, the idea seemed much more daunting.
"We don't have to decide now," April assured him. "Just think about it. We could plan something fun, maybe even go out if you get comfortable enough." Mitchell shook his head in disbelief. "You are crazy. You know that? This was supposed to be a one-time thing." I know, April conceded. "It's totally up to you, no pressure." They pulled into their driveway and headed inside. As April helped him unzip the tight dress, Mitchell's mind spun with her unexpected proposal. Over the next few days, he caught himself thinking back on the costume party more than he expected. Had he really had that much fun in disguise? The experience had certainly been memorable, and he couldn't deny that he was oddly flattered by how convincing April seemed to think he was as a woman. By the middle of the week, Mitchell made up his mind to broach the subject again. "So, about what you said earlier," he began tentatively as they washed dishes together one night. "About me dressing up like that again?" April paused her scrubbing to look at him curiously. "Yeah? I think—" Mitchell chose his words carefully. "It could be something I'd be open to trying again, if you're willing to help me with the clothes and makeup and stuff again." April's eyes lit up. "Seriously? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting!" She dropped the dish sponge and threw her wet, soapy arms around Mitchell in an enthusiastic hug. He laughed. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself. I'm still not sure about going out in public like that. Baby steps." April nodded eagerly. "Yes, of course. We can just start with getting you dressed up at home if that's more comfortable." Over the next few weeks, they started experimenting more with Mitchell's feminine alter ego. April showed him makeup tips and tricks, guiding him through the process until he could apply a fairly convincing face himself. She took him shopping for women's clothing, coaxing him to try on various dresses, skirts, and blouses. To Mitchell's surprise, he found himself getting into the spirit, gradually shedding his initial shyness and reservations. The first few times April helped Mitchell get fully dressed up, it was like unveiling a work of art. She took photos to document the process, fussing over every little detail. "You make such a gorgeous blonde," she gushed, fluffing the long, glossy wig they had picked out. Mitchell studied himself in the mirror, still getting used to this ultra-feminine version staring back. But he had to admit, the total transformation was oddly thrilling. "I can't believe I'm actually doing this," he muttered. But he was fighting a smile, caught up in April's infectious enthusiasm. "Do a little twirl so I can see the full outfit," April urged. Mitchell obliged, feeling silly but also enjoying the swish of the skirt around his legs. April's rapt admiration was a definite ego boost. The first few times, Mitchell changed back into his regular clothes after an hour or two, but April kept coaxing him to stay dressed longer. One night, after an extensive makeup and wardrobe session, April convinced him to stay en femme the entire evening. "It's just the two of us, so you don't have to be self-conscious," she reasoned. "Okay, fine," Mitchell agreed, though he felt a flutter of nervousness walking out into the living room in 3-inch heels. April beamed and held out her arm. "Shall we have a ladies' night in?" Mitchell had to laugh at the absurdity of it all, but he gamely linked arms with her and they spent the evening eating takeout, watching chick flicks and gossiping about imaginary co-workers. Mitchell found himself getting lost in the role. Without even realizing it, his gestures became daintier, his voice drifted higher. "You're a natural at this," April remarked, impressed. Buoyed by her praise, Mitchell's confidence continued to grow. Their dressing-up sessions became a regular part of their private time together. Mitchell found it both soothing and liberating to fully step into this alternate identity. It was like donning a mask that allowed him to let loose in ways he never would, as himself. April decided they needed to give Mitchell's female alter ego her own name. After batting around different options, they settled on Michelle. The name felt like a good fit. "I feel like you're Michelle now," April commented one night after a particularly successful makeup and wardrobe test run. Mitchell studied his reflection. Artfully applied cosmetics and figure-hugging dress, He did feel like a different person, mysterious, alluring, confident.
"You're right," he agreed. "Tonight, I'm Michelle."
Saying the name out loud sent a little thrill through him. As the weeks went on, their private dressing-up sessions took on a new tone. April began using female pronouns all evening to reinforce the role-playing. She taught Mitchell how to walk properly in heels and sit with poise. She gave him tips on how to gesture and carry himself in a feminine manner. "We should have a girls' spa day," April suggested one weekend. "Do facials, paint our nails, exfoliate our skin, the whole 9 yards." Mitchell laughed but agreed it sounded fun. Before long, they were cucumbers on their eyes and a minty mask on their faces, lounging in robes with fresh coats of pink polish on their toes.
"I feel so fancy,"
Mitchell said, stretching luxuriously. He had really come to enjoy these pampering rituals. "Just us gals," April replied with a wink. It became a little inside joke between them, referencing their girls' nights and talking about Michelle like she was a mutual friend. For Mitchell, stepping into the role of Michelle offered an escape from the confines of his normal identity and social expectations. He felt freer to be vulnerable, playful, even a little silly at times. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.